Hey guys, what's going on? It's the Interior Auto Mechanic. Today we're going to be working on the Project Yaris, also known as Project SlowKart. We're going to be doing some bracing. And by bracing, I mean front strut tower brace. We have our rear swaybar, and then also I have two of these. They are rear body brace, strut mount brace kind of type of thing. So basically we're going to go ahead and start with the DC Sports front strut bar. So I've already unpackaged it and actually got it over on the car, just sitting there loosely. This is what comes with it. You get a couple stickers, some bolts, and some instructions. It's pretty simple. This one should not take us real long to get taken care of, and then we can move on to the other stuff. Okay, so I'm back over at the Yaris, and I have removed all of my cowl panel up here. It's like a wiper cowl panel, and basically that will have your wiper motor and wiper linkage all attached to it. It's pretty simple to remove. I did it in a previous video, but I don't know if the video will ever really get posted. I may use it for like B-roll or something like that. But all that you really had to do was take out, I believe it was mainly 10mm bolts. Most of the plastic pieces, like the panel pieces, all popped up. Once you took your wiper arms off, you could pop the plastic panel pieces up, and then the access to all the bolts were there. But anyway, basically all this is going to do is sit right up. We got two holes here. We're going to line up there and line up over here, same way. Should be able to stick the bolts down through it, and then probably actually go bolt side from the bottom and have the stud come up through the bottom so that we can always make sure that the nut is intact and on there. Okay guys, so I went ahead and put my battery back in because I had a sneaking suspicion that if I went ahead and installed my strut tower bar, it would make installing the battery a whole lot more difficult. Kind of proved right, because I had my battery tray and everything out from doing our transmission big upgrade that should have been in a previous video. We've had all that out just so that we could access all the shifter linkage and all that stuff relatively easily. So I went ahead and just set the battery back in. I put some towels over top of it on the terminals just to make sure it doesn't make contact with the metal DC sports bar. I'll probably just do like a time-lapse video of me installing this and then going back and showing you, just because it's not a real difficult one to install, and it shouldn't take me that long to really explain it once I get it put in. Alright guys, so the strut tower brace is all installed. It's really straightforward and simple. Basically it's going to be two bolts over here with two nuts, and the same on this side as well. I did find if you can get a retractable magnet stick like this, basically what you want to do is put your bolt with the stud facing up here, and then you can fish that up through your inner fender, and then kind of poke it right up through there and put your nut on it. Very good quality. Should hopefully change the way this thing handles on back roads and on the track. Next, we'll be moving on to our rear strut tower bar, or body brace, whatever you want to call it. After that, we'll be doing our rear sway bar. Alright guys, so we've got our rear brace installed. I didn't film it because I didn't think it was going to be that big of a challenge to put this thing in. It is a universal one. It's supposed to fit a 2002 through 2006 Acura RSX, and also a 2007 through 2011 Toyota Yaris, hatchback specifically. The hardest part was getting the length on both ends actually set properly, and then getting it to be set like how I wanted it to sit. What I did on the bolts themselves, obviously my rear panels have all been removed, and if you haven't seen that video, That is on my channel. Go and watch it. It shows you how to remove them. It's pretty simple. And then you can kind of access the rest of this stuff because you just pop these panels off that typically would go up here. So these bolt in where the seat belt, typically the top bolt would be at. What I ended up doing, because I couldn't find any other bolts laying around that fit the same thread pitch and diameter of the bolt that it needed to be. So this piece here is like a little lock stay for the bolt to stay with the seat belt. But since I'm not planning on reusing my rear seat belts, I ended up taking one off on the passenger side and then one off on the driver's side, because I knew they threaded in perfectly and did everything they were supposed to do. Once I figured out the length on these that needed to be set, tightening them up was not hard. I made it to where I put the bolt on this side, or the nut on this side, and then the Allen head, if I can get my camera to focus, but you're gonna have to believe me, there's an Allen head bolt on this side, and then there's a nut on this side. I put the nuts on the back side just so I can adjust them if I need to at all, if they start to rattle or anything, and they're a little bit easier to get to on the inside, as opposed to trying to work with more limited space on this side, I should say. But I do have one more brace, so I might try to put one somewhere else if I can find a spot for it. All this is an Amazon or eBay special. It says like JDM Sport on the other side of this. I flipped it this way because I didn't want that showing on the other side. It works. It does what it's supposed to do. Feels pretty good. I would rather it be solid than have these cutouts, but I don't get to design it. Anyway, now that we've got this installed, now let's go ahead and move on to our rear sway bar. All right, so we're on the back end of the Yaris, and I was attempting to do the rear sway bar. Unfortunately, even after I soaked the bolt overnight that goes through this rear strut, it snapped. The bolt head and the nut just were junk. So I'm going to get bolt and nut for this side from Toyota, and also do the same for this one. I'm sure whenever I take this one loose, when we go to take this nut loose, it'll probably shear off as well. So, and that was even after trying to heat it. So I'd rather it happen here than be on the track and the bolt fail or something like that. So we'll get some new good bolts from Toyota, go from there, and get this rear sway bar put on. Okay, so we are back. I've got my new bolts and everything for our strut or dampener or shock absorber, whatever you want to call it. This whole rear sway bar has kind of turned into just probably going to go ahead and do the rear spring setup. Reason for that being, I went ahead and took this strut, again, shock, dampener, whatever you want to call it, out. All you have is you got a 14 millimeter bolt on one side and a nut on the other. Bust that loose. It will drop down on this side, and then the strut just goes right up through there. And on top of it, this will be inside of the car, and there are two nuts. There's two 14 millimeter nuts. Take those out, and that's done. It'll come out then at that point. I did both sides just so that it would let the whole rear axle drop down. What we're running into now, unfortunately, is with the Megan kit, for the tops of the struts where they go in up here, they don't come with any type of bushing. And you can't use the factory bushings on them because they are a different size. And nobody online that I've seen so far has run into this. So I don't know if my bushing size is just different because this is an earlier production Yaris, or if something's wrong with Megan's kit and it didn't come with the parts that I needed. All right, guys, and just like that, everything is back together. I apologize for not videoing the whole thing, but there really wasn't much to videotape. It was pretty straightforward as far as getting this apart. There was a few things that were confusing on the Megan setup just because the directions don't really show a whole lot. Overall, the kit looks really good. Few things that we did, we reused this rubber bushing down on the bottom from the Yaris. Everything else here is all Megan. Again, we did the same thing over here. The upper shock mount piece, I got to fix that boot. But the upper piece that bolts in up here, those little bushings right there, I'll zoom in for you. That right there on both sides. We ended up using some different Toyota ones that we had laying around. FJ80s actually worked pretty good. So had some of those bushings laying around, and we used those up on the top because, like I said, the factory ones did not work. We did use the lower section on here. That lower part fits in perfectly. The silver lower part fits in perfectly on the Yaris because it's from a Yaris. And anyway, we put the newer bushings in off the FJ80. Or I guess they're technically older, but still they were in better shape than what we had. Mine were all blown apart. Pop those in, tightened everything up. Rear sway bar is in as well. This is our TRD rear sway bar. There's your part number if you are interested in getting one. All right, now I've lowered the car back down. With the Megan suspension, it only uses a single nut back here, and this bushing here is off of an FJ, like a Land Cruiser FJ80. Should be what these are off of. We had them laying around, and the bushings actually worked great. Now, if you look down here, the lower section right inside of there, that is still the factory Yaris. And basically, we used the bottom section as factory Yaris, and then FJ80 bushings and the top washer on top, and it worked great on both sides. Because, like I said, the Megan kit does not come with any bushings, so you got to kind of figure something out. And if you wanted to, I don't know if these will fit, but yeah, you can fit these. Yep, those will pop right back on, and I could always drill a hole right in the top so that I can adjust the dampening back here as well. So kind of cool. We can kind of keep it factory looking, but overall, really happy with how this turned out. The next step forward is getting the front suspension done. I'm probably going to send it out just for time's sake, because the same guy that's going to be doing the suspension is also going to be doing the alignment and mounting and balancing tires and everything. So I can just knock it all out in one swift movement. So probably not going to have a lot of video on that. I will go over it though and show what basically has to get taken out so that it can get replaced. The part that I'm waiting for right now is the Cusco pillow ball top mount piece for the front coilover. And once we get that, it'll be going to my guy that does all the alignments and, you know, basically prepping, setting up this thing for the track. So for our exhaust, we've got a header we still got to do. I've got a high flow cat. I need to come up probably with a resonator as well, just so that I don't get a lot of that droning noise. And then as far as the muffler goes, I've got a few of those to pick from. I've kind of been stockpiling those when I would see some cheap TRD parts come up on Facebook. You know, when people modify their cars that already have a TRD package on them, get rid of the stuff. If it's cheap, I'm sure I'll buy it because it can go on this thing or on another vehicle that we have. So may go that route. I also have, I'll show you up here, and this is a good possibility. This is a Jay's Racing exhaust on my Civic. So this car has not really been featured on here at all, but anywho, that's a possibility. We may go with that muffler. I do like that one a lot. Aside from that, I do have a really cool steering wheel I'll show you guys here a little bit later on. And yeah, we've got some exterior modifications we're probably going to do. And that's really it. So sorry the last half of this video is me talking, but at least you'll know what's coming up and what we'll be doing next. If you got any questions, please just put it right down in the comment section down below. I'll do my best to get back to you as fast as I can. If you like the video, please hit the like button. And if you want to see what we're doing next, please hit the subscribe button. I would really appreciate that as well. And thank you so much to our sponsors that have helped along with this build, FTG Tuning and Fumoto oil drain valves. As always, their information is right down in the description down below. If you're looking for any of their products or services, please contact them. They would definitely appreciate it, I'm sure. And as always, thank you so much for watching, And good luck on your projects, and have a great day.